It's because they have, when something's not true, when you need to get your public to believe something that's not true, you have to just saturate them with propaganda, and it has to be unrelenting. In the same way, like earlier when I was talking about, if I wanted to start some like weird stereotype that Chinese people like peanut butter, they could do it. I can't do that, but they could do it. They'd have the power to do it. If all of a sudden every fucking late night talk show host started making jokes about Chinese people and peanut butter, and the applause sign came on, and people would would laugh, and the people at home would hear the laughter, and even if they didn't understand the joke at all, they would still laugh because they'd want to be accepted, part of the group, and they would just assume, well, I guess Chinese people like peanut butter. And if they never witnessed that in their personal lives, but they were bombarded everywhere they went, if they turned on a song, there'd be some, line about Chinese people and peanut butter. And if they read a book, there was some Chinese guy in the book that loved fucking peanut butter. And there cartoons, there was another Chinese character that loved fucking peanut butter and couldn't shut up about peanut butter. Even if you didn't know any Chinese people that liked peanut butter, you would just, especially if you're an NPC and you don't have an inner voice, right? You're just basically getting your firmware flashed. You're just like, oh, Chinese people and peanut butter. But they'd have to keep doing it or it would go away, right? Because eventually, if they just stop talking about Chinese people and peanut butter, because it doesn't make any sense in reality, it would just go away. It might not go away right away because, if you do it enough, it's going to be burned into people's heads. Even if there's like no evidence of it, they're going to think that there's something with Chinese people and peanut butter. But eventually it'll go away because there's nothing in reality that's reinforcing it. So they have to just keep repeating it over and over and over and over again to keep it in the minds of not just the people that they've already flashed the firmware of, but the new people. And here's the funny thing. So that's how much effort it takes to get people to believe the bullshit that they've been spoon feeding them about race, right? That's the shit that they have to spend billions of dollars a year trying to get people to believe by producing television shows, podcasts, newspaper articles, news reports, books, movies. It never ends. It never ends. And yet, all of your evil Nazi beliefs, right? All of your bigotry, right? How come that keeps going? How come that keeps perpetuating itself with almost no propaganda? How is that possible? Why is it that in order for people to keep believing that, that we're all exactly the same, or I guess now you can't even, now it evolves, right? Because now it's like that Cartoon Network PSA where we're not all the same. Black people are better, because they're faced with more adversity, and you have everything you have in your life is because you're in the easy lane, right? You just have no obstacles in your way because you got the magic white privilege or whatever. Well, why is it that they have to spend so much fucking money to get people to believe that shit? And literally it costs nothing. It costs nothing for the opposing view. Because the evidence is all around you. I don't have to keep reinforcing over and over and over again what you can see with your own eyes. You don't have to see it in a movie. You don't have to hear it in a song. You don't have to read it in an article. you read it in articles all the time, right? in a manner of speaking. But you don't need all that shit. Because you can see it with your own eyes. You see, if this was all just bullshit bigotry, if it was just like this weird bigotry that was based on nothing, it would go away within like a generation. But also, why would you think that in the first place? Why would you think so lowly of whites, the white people that created this country? Why would you think so, that they'd be so fucking stupid as to have just like this weird defect where they come up with just bizarre, based on nothing assumptions about other groups that are different than themselves? Why are you so racist to think that whites just have this irrational hatred or fear or loathing of other cultures that is completely based on nothing? And somehow this keeps perpetuating. And see, by the way, here's the problem. Here's the problem. Because you have to believe that. If you're avoiding the truth, if you're avoiding the truth and embracing the lie 100%, you have to believe that. You have to believe, because that's the only thing that makes sense, right? You have to believe that white people actually, they do have some kind of genetic thing that makes them racist and evil and bigots. You have to believe that. And they do believe that. Why do you think they talk about having to eradicate whiteness? Because that's the only explanation that makes sense with their understanding of the world. It really is. I mean, there's nothing else that would make sense. If you ignore, or rather, if you explain away generalizations and stereotypes that whites have made about other groups, and if you dismiss it just as bizarre, based on nothing bigotry, and it doesn't go away with education, like it just keeps going. You know, like no matter what we do, these white people, they still have this irrational hatred or bigotry. And by the way, it's almost never hatred. It literally almost never is. Well, then what's your... I mean, if your premise is that it's based on nothing, you have to... I mean, what's the next step? I mean, you have to assume it has to be something... There must be something inherently bad about white people that makes them see all these patterns that don't exist. So really, you could say that videos like this, it's led to I would say, I mean, I don't want to really blackpill you that hard, but I mean, I think it's just, it's leading to the inevitable genocide of whites. It's laying down the groundwork because you're genetically evil. There is no cure for whiteness. We've tried decades of education to cure whiteness, and it just keeps going. Well, what are your options then? They're already talking about it. It's not even like some... You know, it's not like some big secret or anything like that. There's people openly talking about it and not losing their jobs. Like, they're openly talking about genociding white people. And that's not hyperbole. They're openly talking about it and not losing their jobs. Which means it's, again, it's not boiling the frog anymore. They can just say it and nothing happens to them. And I can't even say the truth and stay on any kind of major platform.